It's the last card of 2025, so you guys already know we got to close this year out in style for UFC Vegas 112 Royval versus Kape. It's your boy Jacob from Topside MMA. In this video, we're going to break down every single fight on this card, and I'm going to tell you everything you need to know to make your picks and your bets this week. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, first up, we got Jamey-Lyn Horth versus Tereza Bleda. This is a really interesting matchup stylistically because you got weight bully versus weight bully. I mean, both of these girls rely on their strength and their physicality to win fights. You know, I mean, they're not the most technical, they're not the sharpest in terms of the raw skill set. It's more so they have to rely on that physical strength to win their fights. So it's going to be interesting to see which girl can have their way in this because it's going to be a bit of a headbutter in this one. So Tereza Bleda on one hand, very young and inexperienced, only 24 years old. And the only time we've seen her lose in the UFC so far has been against very high level competition in Natalia Silva. So it's not really a bad look in terms of her one sole loss. But the thing that does worry me about her in this spot is that she's had a really long layoff. You know, as you can see from her last recent fights, we haven't seen her since 2023 in the octagon. Why is that? We don't really know. You know, it could be from a variety of factors. Maybe she's had injuries. You know, maybe it's the weight cut issues that have maybe caused some injuries or maybe caused her to take some time off to kind of deal with the weight cuts a lot better. Because at 5'9", it is not easy for her to cut down to 125 pounds. It's presented a lot of challenges for her in the past. As we can see from her fights, she really starts to slow down the longer that fights go on. So it's a concern, and it's likely due to the weight cuts. You know, so the older she gets, the more mature her body gets, the more she starts to fill out her frame a bit. I do worry about her with these 125 pound weight cuts because they've been super brutal for her when she was 21, 22 years old. Now at 24 years old, years later, it's going to be even worse, I imagine. So I don't know why she's really wanting to stay at 125 pounds. She probably should move up. It would help her cardio quite a bit because she's kind of like a Tatiana Suarez in the sense of she has really good wrestling. She can take you down, and when she gets on top, she's pretty dominant. Her grappling is pretty high level, and it's very impressive what we've seen from her at such a young age so far in the UFC. Because like I said, the last time we saw her was 3 years ago or almost, and she's only 24 years old right now for the time of this fight. So it goes to show we're likely going to see leaps and bounds of improvements in her game. You know, the fact we haven't seen her in this long, she's likely going to look a lot better in this fight than she did in her last fight, and she still looked damn good in her last fight. So it goes to show with Tereza Bleda, there are the red flags and concerns of these weight cuts are not great. I worry about her conditioning and her cardio. You know, it could affect her chin too. The one time she lost, she was knocked out. I don't really want to say it was a bad chin problem, like she had a chin of dust or something. You know, she got hit with a nice kick. It was kind of hard for her to recover. I don't really blame her or hold that against her at all. It's more so just these weight cuts are going to be worse the older she gets, and they are a concern for me. Whereas Jamey-Lyn Horth, on the other hand, she's kind of like the complete opposite. You know, in terms of like stylistically, you know, we know it's very, very similar of a fight with these two girls. They're a bit of weight bullies, but with Jamey-Lyn Horth, you know, she's not necessarily a one trick like a Tereza Bleda who relies on her grappling and her wrestling, kind of like a Tatiana Suarez. Like I said, if she can't get it going, she's pretty much screwed. Whereas Jamey-Lyn Horth, you know, she can hang. She can hang on the feet with the striking. She can hang in the wrestling, and she can hang on the ground in the grappling too. She's kind of like a jack of all trades. Not great at one thing, but kind of just all right at everything. So I don't know. It could help her in the sense of if she can keep it on the feet, I have no doubt that Jamey-Lyn Horth should win a striking match back and forth on the feet. If it gets to the ground, though, in terms of the wrestling, you know, we've seen Jamey-Lyn Horth make pretty bad mistakes and get out grappled and out wrestled against lower level competition. That against a girl like Tereza Bleda is a huge red flag for me. Now, we can look at some of the recent fights. The one fight that really stood out for me, is her fight against Ivana Petrovic. Now, she ended up winning a split decision here. If you watch this fight back, though, the size difference between these two girls is absolutely insane. I don't even know how Ivana Petrovic was able to rack up so much control time and win exchanges, whether it was in the clinch or on the ground. Ivana Petrovic, early in that fight, was winning grappling exchanges, and the size difference was so large that was like a huge standout for me stylistically for breaking down this fight. That really leads me towards Tereza Bleda, because it's like if you're getting out controlled by a small girl like Petrovic, I can only imagine a Tereza Bleda, who's a real huge girl in this weight class, is going to be a real problem for a girl like Jamey-Lyn Horth. Where there was times in that fight too where she was making mistakes in the grappling. You know, she's doing things that she shouldn't have done. So against a girl like Tereza Bleda, who's only getting better and better, and it seems to be a real promising talent, I think there's going to be some real concerns to have for her. You can look at some of her other fights though. Vanessa Demopoulos, she took that fight, not Jamey-Lyn Horth, but Vanessa Demopoulos took that fight up a weight class short notice, so I don't really hold a ton behind her on that one. Miranda Maverick, you know, Miranda Maverick definitely had some struggles with the striking in that fight, with the range difference and the reach difference, because it was just a huge size difference between the two of them, which is not going to be the case in this fight. We even saw Jamey-Lyn Horth struggle against Brandon Maverick in that case. As you can see from her record, she lost in that fight. So it goes to show we've seen Jamey-Lyn Horth struggle in recent years in aspects where Tereza Bleda really shines. Now, we saw Ivana Petrovic was able to outgrapple her. We saw Brandon Maverick presented a lot of problems for her. And although Brandon Maverick is a very high-level talent, she's very special so far. We've seen her do really well in the UFC. And maybe Tereza Bleda, maybe she's not on that level, but we saw the game plan there that we've seen exposed for Jamey-Lyn Horth multiple times in the past. So the pick's got to be Tereza Bleda. The last thing I will say about this fight, though, that does concern me is that Tereza Bleda's cardio is terrible. That how I see this fight going is Jamey-Lyn Horth likely going to give up the first round. I could see Tereza Bleda coming in very hot, winning the grappling exchanges, winning the wrestling, whether it's against the clinch, on the ground, who knows. I see Jamey-Lyn Horth likely losing the first round. The thing is, though, Tereza Bleda's cardio is so damn bad as fights progress. In the third round, she's given up all the third round. I mean, every time it goes to the third, she looks gassed, she looks terrible, and she likely gives up the third round. Especially Jamey-Lyn Horth. That's the one thing I will give her clear as day in this fight is she will have the cardio advantage. Jamey-Lyn Horth can push a pace for 15 full minutes, clear as day. So if this goes to a decision, Jamey-Lyn Horth is winning the third round. I would be surprised if she didn't. And on the other hand, I'd be surprised if Tereza Bleda does not win the first round. So we're looking at a 1-to-1 fight, and it's going to come down to the second round, and that's really going to be all she took. So this could be a good live betting spot in the sense of if either girl wins the first two rounds, like let's say Tereza Bleda wins the first two, you could have more confidence in her there. Or if Jamey-Lyn Horth somehow wins the first two rounds pretty clearly, she'd be an absolute lock. There's no way in hell she gives up the third round. So the pick's going to be Tereza Bleda just because I think she can get it done within the first two rounds. I've gone back and forth on this one. At first, I thought maybe even pick Jamey-Lyn Horth just because she's going to have such a huge cardio advantage. She's going to win the third round. But I think Tereza Bleda, with this time off, you have to imagine she's probably working on her cardio a bit. She's probably getting more familiar with these weight cuts. She's probably going to be able to handle it a little bit better. And we've seen the last thing, too, I'll say about Tereza Bleda is that earlier in her career, her striking looked really poor, and it was pretty piss. I will not lie. It was pretty bad. But within their recent fights, you can really see the progression in her striking. She started to implement a lot more front kicks and kicks that she didn't have before earlier in her career. So it goes to show her striking is getting better. It is going to get rapidly improving throughout the years. And at 24 years old, I do think in 2025, not quite 2026, but almost 3 years later, when we see the return of Tereza Bleda, she should look career best. She should look really good. And I think she edges it out on the scorecards against Jamey-Lyn Horth. But anyway, next up, we got Alan Frye versus Guilherme Pat. This is a really weird one. I'm going to have some clips going out throughout this video, some clips that I have that I wanted to put in here to kind of give you guys a better picture. This is like a Dana White's Contender Series fight on steroids. I don't really know why this fight is even happening on this card. It doesn't really make sense. This is like a perfect Contender Series fight. We can talk about Alan Frye first because there's a lot more to talk about with Guilherme Pat. Now, with Alan Frye, there's really not a lot of tape study on this guy. There's only one fight that I was able to find from him. Besides that, I was able to find some of his grappling footage. But besides, like, some other grappling footage where he's literally just grappling. I mean, it's not MMA, just grappling. There really is not a whole lot out there to see of Alan Frye, which is a concern for me just because we don't really know what to expect from him. The guy that he beat, the only fight that I was able to see from him was a guy who was this big old fat dude. I'm blanking on his name here. I can pull you guys over. We'll switch over. Boom, get out of here. Now, it was against Justin Frazier. Yeah, I was able to watch this one fight, and he knocks this guy out, but he gets wrestle fucked for the first 2 minutes and 30 seconds, this Justin Frazier guy, but he just death gasses. And the thing with this Justin Frazier guy, we could pull him up really quick too. Justin Frazier, when he took this fight, it was years after his last fight. 2019, you guys can see this, 2019 was his last fight prior to that, so he came off a 6-year layoff, got knocked out in the first round. I mean, it was a terrible look. He was so fat, so overweight, he looked like he shouldn't even be there. I mean, this picture was doing it justice. He looked so damn bad in that spot. So the only footage we've seen from Alan Frye is him getting wrestle fucked until the guy death gasses and then he knocks him out. So I can't have any confidence about Alan Frye whatsoever just because there's nothing to see of him. Like, we saw him deal with the wrestling, I guess, but he was still losing that fight up until the other guy death gas. So with that, on the Alan Frye side, there's literally nothing. I mean, it's like, that doesn't tell us anything at all. You can't have any confidence in him. But the other guy, Guilherme Pat, there's a little bit more. That's the guy that I really wanted to talk about because he's a really interesting subject, like a freak of nature in terms of his actual build. I mean, 6'5" with an 80-inch reach. This dude is a massive specimen. I mean, he is extremely fast, very athletic, tall, lean, shredded. I mean, I don't know. Well, his last fight, let's see what did he weigh in his last fight? It was when you come in at 236 pounds, and you look at him, you're like, holy shit, this guy is a monster. And he's a lean 236 too. I mean, if he had any amount of fat on his body, he could easily max out the heavyweight limit. It's just he's so damn lean and so damn agile. The one fight that I have, I'm going to show clips of here of this fight. It was absolutely insane. It was against Mauricio Quiroz, where he literally breaks this dude's nose with an elbow against the clinch. And this dude, this mother effer comes out. He looks this dude, Guilherme Pat, dead in the eyes. He adjusts the nose back in place, and he keeps fighting. I mean, the absolute show of heart was insanity there. It was crazy. The dude that he fought was a specimen. Hopefully, I have the clip already in right now. If not, it'll be in here very shortly. And it just was absolutely mind-blowing to me how this dude broke his nose, but then still was not able to get a finish until the later round, in the next round, because he did it in the second. It wasn't until the third where the ref finally called that fight off. And it was just a huge red flag for me, because Guilherme Pat is this dude where he has all this power and all this physical ability and all this natural talent, like God-given abilities. That's what this dude has. But he just doesn't ever like push a pace. He's never the one on the gas. He's not going for fight finishing abilities. He's never pushing the finish. He's not going for a finish. He has no fight finishing instincts, which is really like infuriating to see from a guy like him. But the reason why I think he is like this is because there was one fight. I'm going to have the clips up here. I actually forget which one of these guys it was against. It was really hard. I had to find it on YouTube. It was this fight of his, very difficult to find. It was one of these earlier fights where he gets dropped and he drops his opponent. They both drop each other in the first round. Absolutely insane. I'm going to have this clip up right now where they both get dropped in the first round, and it was prior to that Mauricio Quiroz one. So I have a feeling in the back of my mind, maybe Guilherme Pat has chin problems. Maybe he doesn't trust his chin, and maybe that's why he's been a bit more hesitant, because really you look at this guy, the clips I'm going to have up here are absolutely insane too. I forget exactly which fight. I remember which one, because I remember Fight Music Show 3. If you look this up on YouTube, Fight Music Show 3, you can actually find this fight. I think I commented on it too. There were no comments on it because I don't think anyone else saw it besides me, who was doing tape study this week. But Leandro Moira against this guy, 0-0 at the time. I looked it up too. I think he's only 0-1 now. I don't think he ever fought again. Yeah, he's going tooth and nail to war with this Leandro Moira guy. Absolutely insane match. I mean, this last fight after that, where they flagged it for something for padding or mismatching. So it goes to show the level of competition is not great. They both land knockdowns in the first round. He ends up going on to win the fight. And you can see, though, Guilherme Pat has this crazy power. Guilherme Pat, the first time he knocks this guy down, the first punch he throws is a knockdown. I mean, the very first punch, he lands a jab, boom, knocks the guy down. A couple minutes later, he gets knocked down. Next round, he gets another knockdown in this Alan Frye dude. What round? Or no, he actually, they went to a decision. He got another knockdown, but he must have survived. I forgot he survived all the way to the damn bell for that. I thought he knocked him out, because he gets a second knockdown later on in that fight too. Absolutely crazy. But my point of all of that is that with Guilherme Pat, he has a lot of power, but he doesn't have the fight finishing instincts inside of him, and we've seen his chin get cracked before. So if Alan Frye has a lot of power, I could see him hurting Guilherme Pat. I could see him potentially knocking Guilherme Pat out. We've seen his chin cracked before against extremely low-level competition, who obviously doesn't have the record of Alan Frye. Alan Frye 6-0, hasn't lost yet. He's getting cracked. Guilherme Pat's getting cracked by guys who are 0-1. There could be a lot of different ways this fight could play out. I think there are red flags all around. This is just like an absolute bar burner of a fight. You can't really have any confidence in this. The last thing I'll say, though, is Guilherme Pat has very good cardio. That's the one thing I'll give him that I haven't been able to see from Alan Frye, that at least we know with Guilherme Pat. He has the cardio. He can push a pace for 3 full rounds. We've been able to see it in the past, so I don't have any doubt about his cardio. It's just the lack of fight finishing instincts, the questionable durability, and just kind of like the heart. He really seems to lack it, which is a shame given his build and his size. So if Alan Frye has any of that, if there's any footage that I'm missing that you guys can't let me know about, please do. I want to be able to see it. But yeah, because other than that, I've only seen one fight of Alan Frye, so you can't have any confidence. I guess the pick will be Guilherme Pat, just because he's a freak of nature specimen, and if he really pushes a pace, I could see him really hurting Alan Frye. He does have a lot of power, but I do have those concerns of his durability, so I'm not extremely confident in this one. But anyway, the pick will be Guilherme Pat. But next up, we got Melissa Corden versus Luana Santos. This is one that I've gone back and forth on, because on one side, Melissa Corden is kind of the same like a Guilherme Pat, as like she can have a bit of a a timidness to her. You know, we've seen it in her past. She seems like she has a lot of anxiety. You know, we saw in her last UFC debut, she kind of seemed very nervous, kind of anxious out there, which does bother me a bit because I think she does have quite a bit of just raw talent. You know, she's absolutely huge. You could say she's a bit of a weight bully. She relies on her strength and her physicality to help her a lot in fights. She's pretty dangerous against the clinch, and she has a lot of power in her shots. If she hits you, you're going to feel it. Girls have reactions to her shots because she has some power in them. Luana Santos, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. Luana Santos is a grapple or bust. I mean, if she cannot get takedowns, we've seen, I'll switch you guys over. Sorry, I got to move these. Boom, get rid of our boy Alan Frye, get rid of Guilherme. We've seen in her fights, like Casey O'Neill. This was the prominent example in the UFC. Casey O'Neill is a solid fighter, but she's no world beater. But we saw when that fight was stuck on the feet, when Luana Santos could not land takedowns, she was like a fish out of water. I mean, it looked terrible. Her striking looked awful. She did not look comfortable at all. It almost looked like she was panicking out there in the striking. It was a really bad look, and it just goes to show if she can't get the takedowns, she's going to struggle. She's not going to look good, and I would not be surprised if this fight against Melissa Corden looked exactly like that fight against Casey O'Neill, because that was back in 2024, August of 2024. So a year ago, Luana Santos' striking looked terrible. Now we are fast forwarding a year. How much is it going to improve? On one hand, you could say, okay, Luana Santos, 25 years old, very young. She is going to rapidly improve throughout the years. You know, she's going to look better and better and better with every single fight. So I totally get that argument. Maybe it's like that, you know, maybe that's the thing. In this example too, you know, there's only a 1-inch reach advantage difference for Melissa Corden in the spot. So you could look at that and say, well, maybe it's not as bad as that Casey O'Neill fight. But on the other hand too, Melissa Corden at 34 years old, I do have those doubts in the sense of, you know, she's not a spring chicken. You know, the fact that she's getting into the UFC this late in her career, I don't really expect to see a ton of growth in her in this spot. So besides all of this, though, I feel like the main way to break this one down is if Luana Santos can land takedowns, she's going to be the better grappler. She's going to be more dangerous on the ground. She can probably win control time. She can rack up minutes, and I can definitely see her winning that way. However, if she can't, if it's forced to be on the feet or even against the clinch, against the cage, I favor Melissa Corden, especially at distance striking, but more so in the clinch. Melissa Croden's extremely dangerous. You know, she's a demon in the clinch. So if she can keep it in the clinch, keep it at distance striking, I think Melissa Corden can pull this one off. If anyone's landing the more damaging shots, it's going to be Melissa Corden. She hits way harder than Luana Santos. And the durability side too, we've seen some red flags from Melissa Corden when she fought Jacqueline Cavalcanti on the regional scene. I believe, what was it? What organization? Yeah, the LFA. When we saw that was back in 2023. She did have some durability concerns. But the only thing is, Luana Santos doesn't hit hard. So I don't worry about the durability. I don't worry about Melissa Corden getting knocked out. I think Melissa Corden should be able to win this fight. You know, I'm going to pick Melissa Corden. I won't be mind blown if she loses. I'm going to go with the underdog here. I pick her. I think she can keep it on the feet because she's just bigger. She's more strong, and she's a grown-ass woman, 34 years old. She has that grown woman strength, whereas Luana Santos is a bit smaller. And that's the thing, too, at bantamweight, Melissa Corden has to cut down to bantamweight. I mean, she is huge. Luana Santos, she could be at flyweight, and she has been in the past. So I don't really know why she wants to make this jump up to 135. She's wanting to stay here. She doesn't want to go back down. I think the weight is definitely going to favor Melissa Corden. She's the natural bantamweight. So I think Melissa Corden can use her size, her physicality, and her strength to keep it on the feet, keep it in the clinch, land the more damaging shots, and win this fight. So does it for this one. Next up, we got Sharaf versus Steven Asplund. This is one where I'm having a hot take on this one. I thought about taking the underdog Sharaf, and I'm this close to taking his ass, but we're going to break this one down. Now, with Steven Asplund, we can talk about Sharaf first because it's a little bit shorter. With Sharaf, the only real footage we've seen of him that has any value whatsoever is his one fight against which Tafa brother was. I think it was Junior. Sorry, I'm switching you guys over. Junior Tafa. Now, he took this fight. Sharaf took this fight on 4 days' notice. So I don't really hold this one against him all that badly. I know I have some clips that I'm going to have in this fight of that Tafa fight. I screen recorded some of them. I'm going to have in here going throughout because it goes to show he cheated in that spot. Junior Tafa cheated that arguably prevented him, or that kind of gave him an opportunity to go on and win that fight that he would not have had. He committed a bad fence grab in that spot. So I'm going to have clips of that rolling through. And towards the end of that first round, Sharaf Sharaf finally lands a takedown, and he's ground and pounding the shit out of Tafa. He gets saved by the bell. And the thing is, the dude took the fight on 4 days' notice. So yeah, second round comes around, he's death gas, he gets knocked out. But the thing I want to say about that is that I like the chin of Sharaf. You know, Junior Tafa was hitting him with some absolute nukes, some absolute bombs. It wasn't like he got knocked out because his chin gave up. It was because of purely just to fatigue. He just death gassed, and it was a fatigue thing, not a chin thing. So I think if any way to get knocked out in a fight, I mean, obviously you don't want to see someone death gas, but if for any type of a knockout, that was probably the best type of a knockout we could have seen from him. Just because it goes to show he has a damn good chin. He can take a shot. He can give one. He's pretty damn fast. Yes, we saw him death gas, which wasn't a good look, obviously, but still, 4 days notice. I don't blame him a ton for that short notice step up in UFC debut. 4 days notice. It is what it is. But besides that, you know, he's just can crushing. I mean, the record of guys he's beaten is absolute horseshit. 3-1, 0-1, 0-0, 1-4, 0-0, 0-0. Not good looks for either guy. Whereas Steven Asplund, on the other hand, he's had the much better level of competition. He's been fighting in the LFA before the UFC. Now, the guy that he beat on the Contender Series ended up to be a complete tin can with no durability whatsoever. But he's beating guys that are pretty decent on the regional scene in the LFA. The 2 wins that stood out to me the most were the Kovacs and the Morton one. Hammer Morton one, I'm trying to think. This guy was extremely fat and overweight, and he kind of just death gassed in that. And Raiden Kovacs, same thing. Raiden Kovacs was having a lot of success until he death gassed. The one thing I want to talk about in this, I had it in my notes, is about Steven Asplund. Is his grappling is terrible, and his grappling defense is pretty damn bad. I put this in my notes. I wanted to have it in here. Basically, in all of his recent fights, people have been able to take him down in the first minute of the fight. Against Raiden Kovacs, I said in round 1, Kovacs absolutely dominated in the wrestling and the grappling. He lands a takedown with ease and controls Asplund the entire round. In round 2, they're both death gassed, except Asplund has the better cardio. He's able to finish in there. Against Hammer Morton, in round 1, Morton was able to get to the back of Asplund in under a minute, which was a red flag. However, eventually Asplund gets back to distance, and he was a step ahead in the striking. Eventually, Hammer Morton death gasses. And against Denzel Freeman, he lost via round 2 sub, but Freeman was able to land a takedown within the first 60 seconds, which was a bad look. From there, it was all a one-sided fight. Asplund just couldn't handle the wrestling of Freeman. So it just goes to show we have seen major holes in the grappling game of Steven Asplund that I think Sharaf could exploit in the spot. You know, Sharaf, he's training Extreme Couture with guys like Strickland and Curtis and all those guys. You know, we've seen Strickland was in his corner. So we know he is getting high-level work in with very high-level guys. Sharaf hits hard, and he has grappling. He has takedown abilities. We've seen it in the past. We saw him take down Junior Tafa. Even when Tafa cheated, he was able to land another takedown later in that round, which almost got him the win. So I think if Sharaf lands takedowns, I could see him winning 2 out of the 3 rounds. Because we've seen, too, with Steven Asplund, his cardio has looked really good when he's been able to keep it on the feet with the striking. But when guys take him down, when guys wrestle him, that's when his cardio looks really bad. You know, he has good striking cardio, but when his grappling cardio, you know, when guys push a really high grappling pace, his cardio does not look the same as when he's on the feet. So I think people are underestimating Sharaf in the spot. You know, I really do think he has a solid chance to win here. I think he's going to be a step ahead in terms of the speed. I think he probably hits harder than Steven Asplund. I just think Steven Asplund, from what we've seen so far, probably has the cardio advantage. If this is a 3-round striking fight, I could give it to him there. But I don't know. I'm thinking, as of right now, you know, I might pick flip on this one, but I'm going to go with the underdog. I'm going to go with Sharaf. I think he has a real shot of winning this fight. I know, obviously, the record and the numbers for these guys are absolutely insane because they've only had one fight. Obviously, Sharaf lost. That's why his differential is so damn bad. And Steven Asplund plus 33.75. The fight ended in like 20 seconds, and they average it on a minute basis. So, like, he landed, I think it was like 20 strikes in 30 seconds. That's why it's all doubled like that. So that's why the numbers are completely crazy. But anyway, let me know your opinion on this one. I keep going back and forth on it. But as of right now, you know, screw it. I'll take the underdog. We'll go Sharaf. I think he is being underestimated quite a bit in the spot. But anyway, next up, we got Neil Magny versus Yaroslav Amosov. Now, I got some clips for this one too. You know, I got some clip I'm going to have in here at some point of Amosov getting knocked out. Screw it. I'll probably just play it right now, which we saw. When he got knocked out, it was not a good look. When he could not land the takedowns, he was in serious trouble against this Jason Jackson guy. I can pull him up for you guys because I was trying to pull up the records. Bada boom, bada bang. You can see round 3 is in Bellator 301 against Jason Jackson. He gets knocked out. It was a really bad look. You know, that whole fight was a one-sided ass kicking. Yeah, Amosov could not land the takedowns, and that was all it took. And his record is a bit kind of crazy too, because he went on this crazy run. You look at like when he fought Douglas Lima, he was either an underdog or a pick him in that fight. He fought Logan Storley twice. Logan Storley, I don't really put a ton of weight on those wins. Not saying Logan Storley is bad. It's just Logan Storley is a wrestler. So it was two wrestlers going at each other. It completely canceled out. Logan Storley had zero wrestling success, but he didn't really try all that much throughout the fight. And it just kind of came down to a striking battle where Amosov was the better striker. He ended up winning there. But yeah, he was minus 160 the second time they fought. So it goes to show, they respect both guys in that spot. Same with Douglas Lima. It was a very close round. Or yeah, he was a plus 100 underdog actually in this spot. But yeah, he's just been able to take guys down. And the guys like when he fought a Logan Storley who had the wrestling to kind of match his skill set, he was able to edge it out with the striking. So against Neil Magny, it's going to be interesting. Neil Magny definitely screwed us on the Jake Matthews fight. We got hosed on that one a bit. So maybe I'm coming into this with a bit of a vengeance. Fade Magny. Maybe that's the case. I think Amosov should be able to beat him, though. I can't lie. I'm not super high on Amosov. I don't think his striking's great. His wrestling's all right. He has really good cardio. I will say that. He has really good cardio. Seems to be pretty good. You look at his record, it's like, it's really, really good. But it's like, when you watch his tape, he doesn't fight like a guy who's 28-1. Like, if you were to just look at his previous fights and you try and guess what his record would be, you wouldn't guess 28-1. You just wouldn't do it. So I don't know how to take this one. In terms of lining it, I definitely would have him as the favorite. You look at his record, he's beaten actual solid competition. He's the younger guy. Neil Magny's kind of on his way out. And the one time we've seen him lose is when he got knocked out. Who has almost zero knockout power? Neil Magny. So Neil Magny, when he's had success in recent years, it's basically been when guys have death gas. That's when he started to kind of take over. Or the Jake Matthews fight. I don't even count that. That was not a win. That was like the worst. That's some of the worst roughing I've ever seen in my entire life. So that's not even a win. I know technically on here it is, but his last win, like over the Canadian, what's his damn name? I'm blanking. Mike Malott. It was just more he won when he death gassed. Besides that, when young, hungry guys are coming in, they should beat Neil Magny. It's almost like if you have holes in your game, like Zaleski dos Santos. He's another old head. I wouldn't really rate him the same as Yaroslav, Amosov in the big 2025. So in terms of the pick, you got to pick Amosov in this spot. You got to be decently confident in that. As long as he doesn't death gas, which he has really good cardio. That's the one thing I don't worry about Amosov at all is his cardio. It's more so Neil Magny does have good skills in the clinch. When you don't want to really clinch up against Neil Magny, that's where he can thrive. So Amosov's going to embrace that. I wouldn't be surprised if Magny has some success in the clinch. It's just in terms of the raw wrestling, Amosov should be able to take Magny down. I think he can control him, rack up minutes in the control time. That should be enough to get it down on the scorecards if he cannot finish Magny, but he could. He could finish him, could take it to a decision. It could go either way. I wouldn't be surprised of either outcome. But yeah, in this one, the pick's got to be Amosov. Now, next up, we got Joanderson Brito versus Melsik Baghdasaryan. Now, this is where the clips are really going to be coming in. I got like 10 different clips to have in for this damn fight because I tell you what, guys, I don't like hating on fighters. I don't think there's any fighters that I really hate on. I like most fighters, and even if I don't like them, I'm not going to hate on them. I'm not going to root for them to lose. You'd have to be like someone I really, really dislike. I can't even think on the top of my head. I couldn't even fill one hand up a fight with fighters that like I really dislike them. Like I want to see them lose. Except for Melsik Baghdasaryan. I'm not praying on his downfall. That's way too far. It ain't that deep. But I think Melsik is a very dirty fighter. I don't like him. He cheats. He's dirty as hell. And he's just not a guy that when I saw Gene Silva knock his head off, that was like, that was a fun day. That was a great fight. That one was extremely satisfying because Melsik Baghdasaryan has nothing to do with him as a person. Well, it is kind of him as a person. He's just a cheating, dirty ass fighter, and I don't respect his fight style. Now, he's a very good kickboxer. He's very good on the feet. He has good striking. He has good power. I'm not trying to discredit his skill set. It's just more so he's a dirty fighter. Now, I'm going to have some clips coming in here. We can talk about the recent fights as well, too. And it's not Gene Silva. Obviously, Gene Silva smoked his ass, which was awesome. But when he fought Tucker Lutz, when he fought Josh Kulibau, I mean, the fouls he was committing were absolutely insane. And Tucker Lutz's fight, he commits one of every type of foul there is, and he doesn't get a point taken away. The ref is an absolute brain-dead, mother-hugging dummy. Try to keep the language in check here for the algorithm. But yeah, no, it's just the way that he fought. He literally committed a fence grab. He committed an eye poke. He committed a nut tap. and it was multiple fence grabs. You guys are going to see the clips I have in here. I believe he committed like 4 or 5 fence grabs throughout that fight. The ref didn't do anything about it. It was absolute horseshit. So yeah, the one fight that he won, Tucker Lutz, that should have been a draw at the absolute worst. I mean, he should have lost. He should have had about 2 or 3 points taken away. So he should not have even won that fight. And besides that, Josh Kulabau, he cheated in that fight too. He had a fence grab, he had eye pokes, or no, I believe it was eye poke and a nut tap. He hits the two out of 3 check marks, either a fence grab, eye poke, or nut tap. He's hitting one in all of his fights. I mean, the dude is dirty as hell. He doesn't give a shit. This is a whole different clip that I forgot to include, but this is him actually landing the headbutt in Josh Kulabau. I put it in slow motion so you guys can see it. He headbutts his jaw. Absolutely insane. Watch this clip. You can see he headbutts Josh Kulabau in the jaw. It was nuts. He hit this really disgusting, like the ref goes to call the fight for a foul, and he lands this head kick after the bell on Lutz too. I could go on about my disdain for Melsik Baghdasaryan. He's dirty as hell. So I'm praying on his downfall in this spot. In this fight at least. But yeah, in this fight against Josh Kulabau, he did the exact same thing, ends up getting submitted though. So besides my dislike for Melsik Baghdasaryan, I do think objectively, taking biasy aside, because I'm extremely biased on this one. Biasy aside though, Joanderson Brito should win this fight. He's going to be the much better grappler. We've seen Melsik Baghdasaryan is a kickboxer that transitioned into MMA. He's not a grappler. Simple as that. Josh Kulabau wrapped up his back in a second, submitted his ass super quick. And Josh Kulabau, he's actually underrated. You know, he got cut from the UFC for taking multiple losses, but he's actually a solid fighter. I do put respect on that loss for Melsik. You know, I think that's a respectable loss, even getting choked out by Josh Kulabau. But it just goes to show the grappling, there's levels to it, man. And he's just not at that level because he had that kickboxing background. Joanderson Brito is on that level. We've seen Joanderson Brito have a ton of success. He grappled the shit. He completely effed up Diego Lopez. I mean, he whooped Diego Lopez's ass. It was years ago, 2021 Contender Series. Now, the third round comes around. There's another eye poke. They have to wave it off. So they go to the scorecards. Joanderson Brito gets a point taken away in the third round, even though it only lasted like 3 seconds. So he loses that third round, or I believe it's he loses the third round, but the first 2 rounds, he beat Diego Lopez's ass. It was a one-sided ass kicking. He dominated in the grappling. If he could do that against Diego Lopez, you have to imagine he can do the exact same against Melsik Baghdasaryan. I mean, it was a one-sided ass kicking in that fight, and we see Melsik Baghdasaryan get just destroyed by Josh Kulabau. I mean, he wrapped up that submission so damn quickly. I think Joanderson Brito can do the same, especially in recent fights too. Pat Sabatini, elite wrestler. He just had no answer for it. But, you know, we just saw Pat Sabatini do the same thing to Chepe Mariscal, who's actually a really good judo practitioner too. So the fact that he was able to take him down and just land throws on him, pretty damn crazy. So I put respect on the Pat Sabatini loss, the way that he lost that fight. William Gomes, I think he won that fight. I think he got robbed in the spot. Not like a blatant night and day robbery, but I just think it was a really bad call. I feel like he should have won that fight pretty decisively. And I watched it back recently too. That's why I was like, in the moment, I remembered it being like, I was so outraged. I was like, how the hell did he win? Absolute robbery. And I watched it back a lot, like literally yesterday. I was like, okay, it was closer than I imagined. You know, you could argue maybe for Gomes. I don't want to say like robbery of the century, but yeah, I still think he won that fight. And besides that, I know the level of wins aren't the highest besides the Diego Lopez. Under Philly win, very impressive too. But I do think Joanderson Brito just has such a grappling advantage in the spot. And on the feet too, I think they're very competitive. You know, in the striking back and forth, I think it would be extremely competitive. And it's going to be, the thing with this fight too is these guys are both brawlers. They're not going to want to have a soft point matching fight. This is going to be an ugly scrap in a good way. I mean, the one thing I'll give Melsik Baghdasaryan, he ain't no wuss. You know, he wants to come, he wants to stand and bang, he wants to knock your head off. So that's the thing I do respect about him, is that he ain't no bitch. You know, he's going to come out here and swing to take your head off. But same with Joanderson Brito. They're both going to come out here to stand and bang, make it ugly, make it a war. I just think Joanderson Brito at some point, maybe he entertains the striking early on. You know, maybe he does that. But eventually he's going to take it to the ground. And when he does, I think he should be able to wrap up a submission against a guy like Melsik Baghdasaryan. He just really has those holes in his game that have been a problem for him in the past. They should be the same against a guy like Joanderson Brito, who has that elite level grappling. So, pick's going to be Joanderson Brito by submission. Next up, we got Amanda Lemos versus Gillian Robertson. Now in this one, I'm tempted to take Amanda Lemos. I feel like I'm taking so many underdogs this week, which is normally not my style. Normally I don't take too many underdogs, but I feel like Amanda Lemos can definitely pull off the upset here. I think Amanda Lemos is being undervalued due to her last fight against Tatiana Suarez. Tatiana Suarez doesn't lose to anyone except herself. The only time Tatiana Suarez ever loses is because of her own cardio. That's it. Or her own body letting her down. I mean, that's the only time she loses. So yeah, she's able to wrestle Amanda Lemos. And Amanda Lemos, people forget, man, that was a 29-28. That was a close fight. And I remember I had bets on Tatiana Suarez, and that was a sweater. I mean, I was sweating on that one. I was like, holy shit, dude. Amanda Lemos, she almost submitted her too. I was like, my God, Amanda Lemos, although she was a step behind just in the pure wrestling, she looked incredibly good in that fight. She looked great. She was holding her own in that. So against Gillian Robertson, I don't think Gillian Robertson has the offensive wrestling of a Tatiana Suarez. I think Gillian Robertson is really improving. You know, at 30 years old, we see her improve from fight to fight to fight. But I don't put her on that level of Tatiana Suarez. Tatiana Suarez has all the accolades behind her. You know, she's been doing this her entire life. She's one of the best, if not the best wrestlers in the entire women's UFC. So Gillian Robertson is not on that quite of a level just yet in her career. And I don't think she ever will be in terms of the raw wrestling, but in terms of where she's at with just the wrestling, it's not there. So I don't think you can just write off Amanda Lemos, because Amanda Lemos, we've seen at 38 years old, Amanda Lemos still has it. Anyone who says otherwise is not there mentally, because Amanda Lemos is still kicking ass at 38 years old. The thing about Amanda Lemos, though, the thing that does concern me is that sometimes Amanda Lemos will get into situations that she doesn't need to get into because she just doesn't give a shit. I mean, Amanda Lemos is like Honey Badger. You know, like the Honey Badger memes from years ago? Like Honey Badger doesn't give a shit. Honey Badger does what it wants. Amanda Lemos is a tough SOB, and she's like a Honey Badger. It's like she'll entertain grappling because she's like, screw you, I'll grapple your ass. You know, even though when she has the advantage probably on the feet, and that's where she should be, she's not afraid to go anywhere. So at times that has hurt her, though. We know we've seen lapses in her game. So I gotta pull you guys over to the new Amanda Lemos. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. Amanda Lemos, like in her fight against Verna Jandiroba, she got submitted because she was entertaining the grappling. She probably could have got back to her feet in the second round, but she says, screw it. Honey Badger don't care. Honey Badger will grapple. She ended up paying the price for it. Now, the other time she got submitted, Jessica Andrade, that was a weird one. That was like almost like a fluke. Besides that, Weili Zhang, that's who she's losing to. Obviously, former champ. Verna, obviously, she kind of entertained the grappling when she shouldn't have. And then besides that, she's losing to Tatiana Suarez, like we talked about. I think Amanda Lemos is being kind of written off in this spot for no reason. Whereas Gillian Robertson, we know Gillian Robertson, she is takedown or bust. We know that. Now, her striking is getting better. It's improving in fight to fight. At only 30 years old, you know, we're going to see her get better and better and better and better and better. And we know that her striking is going to improve the most out of any other skill that she has, because that's probably been her weakest spot. But, however, even with the improvements, it's not going to be better than Amanda Lemos. Amanda Lemos is going to be better on the feet. So, you look at her recent fights, when she's not able to get takedowns, she's screwed. Like, the main fight was against Tabatha Ricci, as you can see. Tabatha Ricci, back in 2023, June of 2020, make sure you guys can see the screen. We saw when she couldn't land takedowns in that fight, she was like a fish out of water on the feet. Tabatha Ricci was a step ahead in the striking. Now, she didn't get outstruck by that much. I think it was like 100 to 70 something on the significant strikes. So it wasn't like her striking was terrible. It was just decisive enough that, yeah, Tabatha Ricci was a step ahead. When Gillian wasn't able to get the takedowns, it was a major problem. Even before that, though, we've seen in the past too, she's had lapses of her judgment, and her skill sets against girls like JJ Aldrich wasn't the best look either. That was back in 2022. So we're talking a couple of years here. So it's not like it was 8, 9, 10 years ago, you know, where she's losing to JJ Aldrich. She's losing 3 years ago. So there are those concerns of, like, I would not be surprised. Amanda Lemos, she could keep it on the feet. Yeah, she was getting grappled by, or out-wrestled, takedowns were getting, or Suarez was landing takedowns on her, you know, when we saw in that Suarez fight. But that's an outlier. You know, Suarez is not the norm there. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, guys, it's like a Melsik, Baghdasaryan getting knocked out by Gene Silva, and he'd never been knocked out before. Gene Silva hits like a truck, you know. I'm like, I don't put that or see that fight and be like, yeah, dude, you have chin problems. No, it's like the dude just hits like a truck. You got taken down by Tatiana Suarez. Do you have bad takedown defense? No, you're just going against one of the best wrestlers ever. So it's like, I don't really put the same, or you got to give some respect to Amanda Lemos and her takedown defense, even with that Tatiana Suarez fight. So in this fight, you know what? I guess screw it. We can keep the train going. This is another one. Like, I might pick Flip. I kind of want to see how they come with weigh-ins and whatnot, because, you know, Amanda Lemos is at 38 years old. Eventually, she's going to start slowing down. I don't even think she has quite yet. I think she's still looking great. You know, she's really impressive, kind of like Angela Hill. You know, we've seen her. Yeah, now she's starting to slow down, but she's now like 41 years old. So Amanda Lemos still has miles left on the tank. She's still going to fight at the highest level. I don't have any doubts for Amanda Lemos not looking great in the spot. I think she's going to look just like normal. She's going to look good. She's going to look solid. She'll be the better striker. And I think she can keep it on the feet. I think she can land the more damaging shots. So I guess for now, screw it. We'll take Amanda Lemos as the underdog pick. I might end up pick flipping on this one. Not super confident, but I'll ride with my dog Amanda Lemos in this one. But anyway, next up, we got Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Marcos Buchecha. Now, this one I'm going to have is probably a shorter breakdown. This has come down to purely Marcos Buchecha is an elite grappler. Elite world champion BJJ grappler. You want to know what Kennedy Nzechukwu is? This picture could be the entire breakdown. I mean, I could just put it at this and we could just move on. There are these spots where it just fights like this, right? We got about an even odds line, right? We have an elite grappler and we got a blue belt. Kennedy is a blue belt in BJJ. This photo was taken January 29th of this year. I like Kennedy Nzechukwu. I just think he's going to be a step behind here. Now, we saw in Marcos Buchecha's in his last fight against Martin Buday, he wasn't able to have a ton of grappling success. So people are saying, oh, well, this guy, his grappling probably actually sucks. You know, it doesn't translate at all. Martin Buday has elite takedown defense. His takedown defense is one of the highest there is out of anyone. I mean, it's like a 90% takedown defense stat from Martin Buday. Is absolutely nuts because Martin Buday is a freak of nature. He's huge. He's a giant specimen. And he's an extremely high-level BJJ black belt. He's an extremely high-level grappler. So yeah, Marcos Buchecha still had a lot of success in the grappling when he was able to take it to the ground. He just doesn't have that wrestling base to take it to the ground against a guy like Martin Buday. But when he did in the second round of that fight, he looked pretty good. I will say he controlled him for multiple minutes, even against a very high-level grappler, which was extremely, extremely impressive to me. And honestly, just that second round of that Martin Buday fight is enough for me to, with confidence, pick him in the spot against Kennedy Nzechukwu. We just saw Kennedy get, heel hooked against Walter Walker. And although that was a really bad look, I'm not even putting a ton of weight onto that because Walter Walker is so damn fast, physical, explosive. He has a lot more raw athleticism compared to Marcos Buchecha. Marcos Buchecha is a bit of a stocky, slow, like he's not as fast twitch, explosive like a Walter Walker, if that makes sense. So I think Marcos Buchecha, he's going to land takedowns at some point. Yes, he's probably going to death gas. His cardio has proven to be shit. He's not improving his cardio, so he's probably going to give up the third round. Maybe he could get finished in the third round. If Kennedy somehow knocks his ass out in the third round, I won't be surprised because it won't be due to his chin. It would be due to the fatigue because we've seen Marcos Buchecha, when he fought Rug, this absolute freak from like the Congo or somewhere. I don't know. He's from some place. I don't even know where the hell. I feel like the Congo is not right. It's another one. I'm blanking on it, though. He's this giant freak of nature. He's hitting him with absolute bombs. His chin held up really well, so I don't worry about the chin of Marcos Buchecha. It's more so the cardio that would be, if he were to get finished, it would be because it was just death gas. So Kennedy could do that. You know, Kennedy's going to have a huge reach advantage. He's going to be the much better striker, obviously. And if he can keep it on the feet, he'll have a ton of success. As you can see, 80% takedown defense. Kennedy still has good takedown defense, regardless of what we saw from that Walter Walker fight. So would I be surprised if Kennedy came out here, boxed the head off Marcos Buchecha, stopped the takedowns, wore his ass out in the third round? He won. Maybe he just won the third round in the second, was able to win overall in the scorecards, or maybe he finishes his ass in the third round. I wouldn't be mind blown. I can't say I'd be surprised one bit at all. I do think if either guy is going to get a finish, it could be Marcos Buchecha by submission early, maybe Kennedy by a knockout late. It's just really hard to tell because I think if this does go to the scorecards, I think Marcos Buchecha is probably going to win the first round. Kennedy's probably going to win the third round. It's going to come down to that second round if Marcos Buchecha has enough gas left in the tank to land takedowns, to rack up control time, if he can't get a submission, which we saw him do it against Martin Buday. So if he can do it against Martin Buday in that second round, I think he could probably do the same against Kennedy Nzechukwu in the second round. So I'm going to go with Marcos Buchecha. Maybe he gets a submission though. Like I said, Martin Buday, very high level BJJ black belt. So yeah, he couldn't submit him. Kennedy Nzechukwu was a blue belt. Should be enough here. Marcos Buchecha, if you can't submit a blue belt, what are these grappling accolades? Do what? I know. It's not the same. I guess it's translating over. You're taking it from pure grappling to MMA. I totally get it. But he should be able to submit a blue belt. I mean, come on. It was like Jimmy Crute versus Marcin Prachnio. It was like it's like, maybe he loses, but it's like, come on. You can't pick against that. You can't pick a blue belt against the elite level black belt. So pick's going to be Marcos Buchecha. I think he could probably submit Kennedy. We've seen it happen in the past before. It probably happens again. Marcos Buchecha by submission has got to be the pick. So next up, we got Melquizael Costa versus Morgan Charriere. Now, I will say, Morgan Charriere, an absolute dog. You see the France by his country, and you could say, whoa, Is this another soft French fighter? You're damn wrong. Morgan Charriere, absolute dog, absolute beast, nothing but heart in this man. He's a dog. He will fight till the very end. He's breaking stereotypes for the French. You know, he's not some softy. He's willing to stand and bang and make it ugly. But so is Melky Costa. Both these guys are going to make this fight a war. And honestly, I don't have a ton to break down for this fight. You know, we've seen Morgan Charriere in recent years. He was a kickboxer that transitioned to MMA, but his wrestling, his grappling has actually been pretty damn solid, and it's translated really well. He's really improved in those areas quite a bit, and I've been really impressed considering he has that kickboxing background. You know, a lot of kickboxers, especially the French kickboxers, they come into the UFC, they do not want to grapple at all. They work on their takedown defense, but that's it. We've seen Morgan Charriere, he'll shoot a damn takedown, he'll go in for one, he doesn't care. He'll wrestle, he'll grapple, he'll do it all. So I've been impressed with Morgan Charriere. The one fight that stood out to me that kind of worries me for him in this spot was his fight against Nathaniel Wood. Not more so, he did get knocked down early in that spot, but the thing that really bothered me, or not bothered me, but sorry, that worried me, we got to flip over too. The thing that worried me the most in that spot was the speed disadvantage that he had against Nathaniel Wood. Or not in his favor. He had a speed disadvantage in that spot. And it was really apparent, and it was a really big kind of detriment that ultimately cost him the loss, or gave him the loss in that spot. It was just a perfect example of speed being power. That was that entire fight summed up in one gist. I mean, that's exactly what it was. And against a guy like Costa, Melky Costa is pretty damn fast. So in this fight, I do think Costa is going to have the speed advantage. He's going to have a slight reach advantage, and I like that he's a southpaw going against an orthodox striker. He is going to have those advantages going for him, and he's going to be the better grappler too. You know, in terms of the submission threat, you got to give it to Costa. So overall, I think the odds are actually pretty damn accurate on this one. I would have it flipped. I guess I'm picking the underdog. I'm picking Costa in this spot. We're picking a lot of underdogs this week. But yeah, I'm probably not going to pick flip on this one. I'm pretty locked in with Costa. I think he should win this spot. You know, I think he's going to be the Ranger striker. The thing I like about Costa too, he mixes up with so many different weapons, you know, from his punches to his kicks to knees to elbows. The dude is extremely versatile. He's always switching it up on you. He has the better grappling game. We see him, if these two guys go against the cage and they're clinching, I think Morgan Charriere probably is the more physically strong of the two, but beyond the first round, you know, I think pure skill is going to beat strength as these guys start to slow down a bit. So I'm going to go with Costa. I think he has the higher upside, I guess, with the submissions. I like his ability to kind of switch it up on the feet. You know, he's a southpaw going against an orthodox. He has the reach advantage, and I think he's going to have the speed advantage in this fight too that we've seen when Morgan Charriere has really struggled with in the past. So pick's going to be Costa, but like I said, odds are pretty spot on for me. I would just have him flipped. You know, I'd have Costa as like a minus 125 favorite. So not really a huge lean either way in the spot. But yeah, we'll go with our boy Costa for this one. Next up, we got Cesar Almeida versus Cesar Olejniczak. We got Mikhail Olejniczak's younger brother finally in the UFC. If you guys were watching the videos throughout the Contender Series earlier this year, we've already broken down our boy Cesar Olejniczak. But we will do it again. So, Cesar Olejniczak, you know, he kind of fights like his brother, but he has way more upside than his brother, Mikhail Olejniczak, just because he's a lot more well-rounded at a younger age. You know, not saying, I think Mikhail Olejniczak has had a career resurgence. So it's not to say that he's not good. It's just Cesar Olejniczak is kind of having that career resurgence at 25 years old, where Mikhail is multiple years older. So I just think time-wise, you know, along where both those brothers are in terms of their careers and their age, I think Cesar is going to be able to rapidly improve at a higher rate and get a lot better, a lot quicker, obviously, with him being so damn young. But yeah, you know, I think he's been pretty good so far from what we've seen from him. The first fight, when we saw in the Contender Series, you know, it was kind of not really a great indication of where he's at, you know, because he just defended a takedown, kind of like a Curtis Blades versus Jailton Almeida. He's defending a takedown. He just starts landing hammer fists and then knocks the dude out. I mean, that's exactly how that fight went. It was the same type of thing. So we didn't really see a whole lot from that spot. But I feel like the reason why Cesar is a bigger favorite in this is just because he has the grappling game. You know, there have been times in the past where Cesar has made, I'd call them fight IQ mistakes, where he's he has no problem staying with the grappling in spots where he has a striking advantage. Almost like in Amanda Lemos when she fought Verna, that same type of thing where it's like, why are you trying to keep it on the ground? Like, why are you engaging in the grappling when you should just stand back up where you have the advantage on the feet? We've seen him do that in the past. The one loss, as you can see from 2023, he got grapple fucked And in that fight, there were moments where he could stand back up, but he's in there going for submissions. So it's like he ended up losing because he'd go for a submission. He couldn't get it. And then as a result, he'd be on bottom. He gave up control time. He gave up minutes on the clock and ended up losing the decision because he was going for these submissions. Kind of like a Poirier jumping Gillian and losing control time. It's the same type of thing. That's what he was doing in that one loss he had recently. So I think it's more of a fight IQ thing. It's more of a mental thing. He can patch that. And I kind of had it in my notes too. I had it in my Contender Series notes because I was looking at those. But it was something like, in his last couple fights, I think I have it in here. Blah, blah, blah. Only 25 years old. Oh, yeah, this is the crazy thing, too. But he has 51, technically 52 after Dana White's Contender Series debut. Total fights on his record, 18 of those being professional. I swore I had it on here. Oh, yeah, he's 15-3, but two of his last 3 losses were more than 5 years ago. So I literally had it. His most recent loss in his only loss in the last 5 years was against a guy named Ali Rasulov back in December of 2023. Rasulov was 12-0 at the time. He's currently 14-1, so this loss has aged pretty decently well. So the only time he's lost is when he's got grapple fucked. Now who is he fighting? Cesar Almeida, very experienced kickboxer. The dude's not trying to grapple though. The guy's not trying to grapple. I have some clips I'm going to have in this one, just showing in terms of the durability of both of these guys. You know, I think Cesar Almeida at this point in his career, he's been through so many wars. He's been through so much. Although he's never been knocked out. He's been dropped multiple times. So his chin has been, now, I don't want to say a problem. Obviously, you've seen the guy's never been knocked out, but we've seen him get dropped multiple times. I think there's a chance Cesar could drop him in this spot too. And if you're landing a knockdown, you're winning the round. Even if you don't knock the guy out, or at least most likely going to win the round. So I think Cesar likely at some point could touch the chin of Cesar Almeida. But besides that, in terms of the grappling, I'm going to give the advantage to Cesar Olazechuk. He's training at the Fighting Nerds with his brother. Literally, I talked about this in my Contender Series breakdown video months ago. I was going through his Instagram. What did I say? I said he is training at the Fighting Nerds for this camp. That was for his Dana White Contender Series camp, because these notes from back then, alongside his brother Mikhail. Now he's been posting pictures with the main grappling coach at the Fighting Nerds. So this does show me that the grappling is likely where he's putting the majority of his training time towards, but who knows if it'll be enough in this fight. In that fight, he was going against Theo Hag, who is a grappler. He was just a grapple or die, so that's why I said who knows if it'll be enough in this fight. But anyway, in this fight, you know, he's been training grappling with the Fighting Nerds the last at least year or so. So I do imagine in terms of the raw grappling, I'll give him the edge in this spot, and it should be enough. You know, I think if he can land the takedowns, he can probably have a lot of success against Cesar Almeida. We saw Cesar Almeida was getting taken down by Roman Kopylov. He made Roman Kopylov look like Khabib out there. So if Roman Kopylov can do that, I'm going to imagine Cesar Olazechuk can do the same. And I think compared to a guy like Roman Kopylov, Cesar Olazechuk does have the submission upside to him. Although, as you can see in his record, only 2-1 to a submission. He's not landing them that often, but it's there. Against a guy like Cesar Almeida, who's primarily a kickboxer, the option is there. It's a potential that definitely could happen. So I'm going to pick Cesar Olazechuk in this one. I'm not completely writing off Cesar Almeida, though. If Cesar Almeida gives a crafty vet lesson in terms of if they just kickbox for 15 minutes back and forth, I would not be mind blown if Cesar Almeida were to get his hand raised. It's just Cesar Olazechuk has the grappling upside, and he has the edge there in this fight, and I think it could help him a lot, and I think it could be the deciding factor. And lastly, like we said, the chin issues of Cesar Almeida, we've seen him dropped numerous times. So they could be a factor here. Let's say if either guy's getting dropped, I have to imagine Cesar Almeida would likely be the one getting dropped, just with all the years on the tank, all the miles, all the fights, all the wars. It's likely adding up, and at 37 years old, I could see it starting to have some more effect the longer that he keeps fighting in the UFC. But anyway, Cesar Olazechuk will be the pick, but I won't be mind blown whoever might win this fight. But next up, we got Giga Chikadze versus Kevin Vallejos. My boy Kevin Vallejos, my absolute dog. I am biased in this spot. Kevin Vallejos has been my guy. I love Kevin Vallejos. You know, we will beat Giga Chikadze. We will get our hand raised. We will be the champ. You know, that's the Kevin Vallejos army. You know, we're running deep. I've been a Kevin Vallejos supporter for a long ass time. It was hilarious, actually. On my Twitter, I only have like 3 tweets, and all 3 of them are all about Kevin Vallejos. It's kind of funny. But I'm just really confident. I really like Kevin Vallejos. You know, I think he's going to be a real star at only 23 years old. He's already so damn good. And we've seen, even in his recent fights, when he fought Danny Silva, I will say, when that fight happened the first time, like when I watched it live, I was like, you know, Kevin Vallejos didn't look as good as I thought he was going to. You know, I was a bit disappointed in his performance. You know, I thought he didn't look the best that he could be. I didn't think he fought at the best of his abilities. You know, it was a struggle for him in that spot against Danny Silva, who had a slight reach advantage. He kind of had some trouble. So when I thought about this fight, I was like, you know, maybe Giga could use his reach advantage to really cause some problems for Kevin Vallejos. That's the thing too with Danny Silva in that fight. It was all boxing. Danny Silva wasn't really throwing that many kicks because Kevin Vallejos is a pretty square stance boxer. He's not really some crazy back and forth like karate stance. Like, he's not throwing crazy kicks. He's a pretty stationary boxer. Giga Chikadze, on the other hand, he's like the opposite. He throws a lot of kicks. He's spamming kicks. He has the Giga kick. He has a ton of arsenal or tools in his arsenal that he can land. And I think he could cause Kevin Vallejos some problems early on in this spot with the kicks. I think the reach and the kicks are going to be a huge advantage for Giga in this spot, and I think they're going to give him some trouble early on. I just think it's a matter of when Kevin Vallejos starts to really ramp it up. In recent fights, Giga Chikadze, although he has had very good durability throughout his career, I think at a certain point, we start to see him in recent fights. He's been getting cracked more and more often. We start to see him not get rocked terribly, but punches are starting to have real effect against him. And we know Kevin Vallejos hits hard as hell. If he touches the chin of Giga, it's going to be a problem. So I could see this being a back and forth battle where Giga's landing more volume, but Kevin Vallejos is landing more damaging shots. He's having the more impactful shots. And that's the thing too. Besides just the pure striking, I like the grappling upside of Kevin Vallejos. We saw in his last fight against Danny Silva, he was looking really good in the grappling and the wrestling, whether it was on the ground or in the cage. We saw it looked really good offensively and really good defensively. And Danny Silva, honestly, I put a ton of respect on that win. Danny Silva really impressed me in that spot. I wasn't super high on him before that, but after that fight, I'm a Danny Silva fan, I will say. And he showed in that fight, he has an iron chin. Danny Silva, he was eating absolute nukes from Kevin Vallejos like they was like a damn bowl of cereal. He was just eating them up, no reaction. Giga Chikadze is not gonna have that same level of chin. He's just not. So I watched that fight back and I was like, if Danny Silva had any type of chin problem, that fight would have been a lot more decisive because he was eating nukes. He ate so many right overhands to the point I was like, holy shit. It felt like Kevin Vallejos had like an Xbox controller and he's just spamming like the right overhand button. He just landed right hand, right overhand, over right overhand, over right overhand. He just kept landing them over and over. And against Giga Chikadze, I'm like, Giga eats those types of blows. He might get knocked out for the first time in his career. I would not be surprised. And that's the thing too. Danny Silva was really slick with the counters too. He had a real speed advantage in that spot, which I was really surprised by. Because Kevin Vallejos, he is pretty damn quick. He has a lot of power, but he's pretty quick too. But I've never really seen him at that big of a speed disadvantage. And I don't think Giga is going to have that speed advantage for him. At 37 years old, it's not the same. Danny Silva, he's in his physical prime right now. Giga Chikadze, he's kind of over the hill. He's really, I don't want to say he's declining, but he just never turned out to be what everyone thought he was going to be. He hasn't really proven him to be at the highest level. We've seen him really struggle in all aspects. We saw him struggle against guys like David Onama, from the striking to the grappling. I think of David Onama, who's not the most physically strong, he's a good fighter, but we saw Steve Garcia, that losses. That didn't go great. We've seen him struggle in multiple areas. We're seeing him getting cracked on the feet. Not cracked badly, but we're seeing him wearing damage poorly. We've seen him struggle in the grappling. We just saw Kevin Vallejos put on a really good performance with the striking and the grappling. I just think Kevin Vallejos has all the career trajectory. This almost feels like a Peyton Talbot versus Henry Cejudo, but like the Walmart version of that in terms of like the matchmaking. That's kind of how this fight feels. So got to go with my boy Kevin Vallejos. I think he will probably have some adversity to deal with early on from the range and the leg kicks of Giga, but as long as he can close the distance, crash the pocket, really land the more damaging shots, which I think he will, he's going to have the grappling advantage in the spot too. I really like Kevin Vallejos. He should get this one done. Confident in my boy Kevin Vallejos, even though I am very biased in the spot. I like Giga. I got no issue with Giga. I really like Kevin. But even biasy aside, I do think Kevin Vallejos should win this spot. But anyway, in the main event, we got Brandon Royval versus Manel Kape. Now, like I said, I don't like hating on fighters. I don't think I could have five fingers for each, like one fighter that I'm like, I really don't like you. I couldn't do it. I like mostly everyone. The only people I don't like are like blatant cheaters or just complete dickheads. Enter Manel Kape. I am not a Manel Kape fan, so I'm going to open this breakdown with a disclosure. I am extremely biased towards Brandon Royval. Brandon Royval, raw dog, that's my guy. I'm a huge Brandon Royval fan. Maybe not a huge Brandon Royval fan, but I am a Brandon Royval fan. I like his style. I like him as a person. I'm definitely going to be rooting for Brandon Royval, and I really don't like Manel Kape. I think he's a bit of a we're gonna keep it. All right, yeah, we'll keep it PG. He can be a bit of a smart aleck. There we go. Boom. We'll say that. And he's a bit of a cheater too. So not a huge Manel Kape fan, but in terms of the breakdown, this one's not going to be that long. I think, unfortunately, Manel Kape should win this fight. I really just think, you know, he's proven to be elite, man. Even in his fight against Magny, he breaks his toe in that second round, and he should have had a point, not Manel Kape, but Magny should have had a point taken away in that second round. You go and watch that back. I might have a clip of it in here. He's pulling the shorts of Magny, or Magny's pulling Manel Kape's shorts. He damn near pulls it to where you can see cheeks. I mean, that's how far he pulled it. They showed the replay, and you could see his hand clearly in the shorts, yanking them off like he's trying to do some sus stuff. I mean, that's how bad it was in that spot. No point taken away, obviously. Of course not. So yeah, that fight, it should have been a damn draw. So if it wasn't for that one time that he lost, he's been on an absolute tear right now. And you could have some asterisks against his fights, I will say. In his fight against Bruno Silva, he lands a nut shot in the third round, hurts him. That's what ends up allowing him to get that knockout win that he would not have had otherwise. Same with Asplund Almeida. Asplund Almeida took that fight on extremely short notice. So you got to argue, okay, he got finished in the third round. He was just tired. He didn't have anything left in the tank because he wasn't training for it. You know, he took the fight on very short notice. So on the other hand, all of his recent fights have these little asterisks by him. You know, it's like, well, he broke his toe in that fight, and well, he was pulling his shorts down, and then the other fight, well, he kicked the guy in the dick, and then he knocked him out, and the ref didn't say anything, and then the other one is like, oh, he fought a guy in super short notice. So all of the little asterisks by Manel Kape's name do add some, I don't know, uncertainty, some questions, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But I will say Manel Kape is elite, man. As much as I hate to say it, that's why, like, I'm biased against him. But I'm not going to lie to you guys. He is elite, man. He is extremely high level from the grappling to the striking, extremely fast. That's the thing that I think is going to give him the real advantage in the spot, is he doesn't have, I know that the stats don't really suggest it, but he is not the most of a high volume guy. He's very meticulous. You know, he's very particular with the shots. You know, he's a bit of a counter striker. He's not going to just go and do a Royval versus Van brawl where they're landing 200 plus significant strikes. He's not going to do that. You know, he's going to pick his shots here and there. And I think he's going to win just the overall volume of this fight. Not in the sense of the volume landed, but just like the majority of the time that this fight goes on. I think he's just going to win these little time. He's going to rack up time. You know, maybe he's not going to win huge moments necessarily. He might, but I just think he's going to be consistently just a step ahead of Royval. It's going to feel like one of those fights where it feels really close, but then you look at the round by round, it's like, oh, well, Kape just outlanded him. You know, maybe Kape had a couple big shots, like, oh, well, I guess he got that round. And the thing about this too is Manel Kape has an iron chin, man. He has insane durability. You really can't hurt this guy. He has great durability, great chin on him, great cardio. Brandon Royval, I just don't think he's going to be able to hurt Kape. So I'm like, in terms of the game planning, we know Manel Kape's going to come in here probably with a smarter game plan. He has a higher fight IQ. You know, Brandon Royval, we've seen in his past, he does dumb shit. He was willing to grapple with Tatsuro Taira. He was arguably could have beat Josh Van, but then he gets dropped in the last 30 seconds because he goes to make it a brawl. So there have been real gaps in Brandon Royval's fight IQ and his game planning and his decision making that have really cost him before in the past, even though he won that Taira fight. There were moments where it's like, dude, what are we doing here? So Manel Kape's just not that guy. Manel Kape, as much as I hate to admit it, very smart, very technical, very meticulous about how he fights, and he's likely going to be a step ahead of Brandon Royval on the spot. I think he has the better striking in terms of the accuracy, in terms of where he lands his shots, where he picks his shots. He's not going to really engage in a brawl. He has the better chin than Brandon Royval, so if either guy's getting hurt, it's likely going to be Royval. I'd give Manel Kape probably the wrestling and the grappling advantage as well. He's very good on the ground, very good with the wrestling. Even against Magny, I mean, he was stopping nearly all the takedown attempts, and he had a broken toe, so it goes to show. It's like, holy shit, when I watched that fight back, I was like, this dude broke his big toe, and he's sprawling like he's healthy as can be against Magny, one of the best, if not the best wrestlers in the entire damn division. So I'm like, after watching that back, I'm like, and then he's beating the piss out of Bruno Silva. Even though Asu took the fight on short notice, he beat his ass. And we saw Brandon Royval, the fight against Taira, not the best look. I mean, when he's getting controlled, he's letting Taira control him for 4+ minutes in the rounds that he was getting controlled. Against Josh Van, he gave that fight. Maybe not gave it up, but it just, the decisions he makes just kind of hold him back a bit. The durability concerns, like I said, are on the side of Royval, if anyone, in this fight, compared to a guy like Kape, who's damn near invincible. We've seen him submitted before in the past, but Brandon Royval, he's not going to submit him in the spot. So the pick's got to be Manel Kape, as much as I hate to admit it. He's just probably the better guy. I think he's probably just going to get his hand raised. Even if you look at the numbers too, I feel like there's going to be a lot of striking in the spot. It's going to be back and forth. These guys both have the same reach, as you can see, southpaw versus southpaw. It's going to be interesting, but you look at the numbers. Brandon Royval, significant striking accuracy, 41%. Defense, 43%. Manel Kape, 55%. 57% significant striking defense. Manel Kape's good, man. He's damn good. Even with the knockdowns, you can see the knockdown ratio, 3-3 to 6-0. If anyone's getting knocked down, if anyone's getting hurt, Brandon Royval is going to be the one getting hurt. They got 5 rounds, too. I mean, Manel Kape has elite cardio. Brandon Royval has very, very, very good cardio, too. So I'll give him that. But as much as I hate to admit it, Manel Kape probably is going to get his hand raised. I'd be pretty surprised if he lost. Honestly, I think Manel Kape is very elite. So I'm going to be rooting for my boy Brandon Royval. I hope Brandon Royval gets it done. I'm going to be really, really cheering for my boy Royval, but got to go with Kape. But anyway, guys, hopefully you liked the video. If you do, drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe to your boy. This video took a ton of research. I really went all out for this one, researching this for you guys. So I'm feeling super confident this week. Nice little bounce back week to kind of come back, end the year on a bang. Super excited for this one. So anyway, guys, thank you guys for all the love and support on the videos. I really appreciate it. It's your boy Jacob from Topside MMA, and I'll see y'all soon. So peace.